Hey, welcome to the podcast. This is The Surge Effect, and I'm your host, Mike Surge. This podcast will be talking about anything and everything, life in general to current events and past events, and all things about this beautiful and wonderful world that we live in. And this podcast, well, it'll probably have an effect on you.
Before we get started on today's podcast, let's talk about two different sponsors that we have. Our first sponsor is Love My Legs Owen Sound Grey Bruce. Click on the link below in the description and head on over to their website, which is a Facebook site. Has all different kinds of women's leggings on there, and they have 3 different styles of waistbands. And they are the only lifetime guarantee in the business. So head on over to their website, their Facebook page, and check out what they have to offer. Our second sponsor for today is He Shirts, She Shirts. Once again, click on the link below in the description and head on over to their website and see what they have to offer. They are more than just a t-shirt company. All right, let's get started with today's podcast. Well, hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Surge Effect. In this episode of the Surge Effect, we are going to be talking a little bit about, at the start, I'm going to talk about Themis, which is the Greek goddess of laws. You don't know who Themis is? Yeah, you've probably seen her a million times. She's the lady statue that stands up, and she has the weigh scales in one hand, and she has a blindfold on in the other. That blindfold is to show you that the laws of the land are equal among all people. And there's no favorites. Doesn't matter what political party you're in. It doesn't matter who you belong to, what religious belief you're in. Law is the law of the land for everyone. Okay? So, so we're going to talk a little bit about that. So there she is right there. If you've never seen her before, like I said, she's got weigh scales there, and she's got a blindfold on. Now, with that being said, I'm going to show you a few video clips of what's transpired just in the last several days in the States, in the United States. I jump back and forth from the States to Canada. We have so much political stuff going on. It's crazy. But for instance, right now I'm going to show you some stuff about with Hunter Biden, what's going on with Hunter Biden down in the States and some of the committees. With the Democrats, of course, are saying that there's nothing to see here for Hunter. But with equal justice, there should be something to see here, because if people remember about the impeachment of Donald Trump, it was a phone call. And there was one line in that phone call, and I've actually covered this in a previous podcast. You can go back and find it. But in a nutshell, it was one little line that he said to Zelensky. Nothing was really, no big deal. Nothing was said. He was just having a conversation. Nothing wrong with that. And that was like one little thing. One thing that he did, and they impeached him. They pushed for impeachment. The Democrats pushed through with it and everything else. And now they're saying with the Hunter and the Bidens, there's nothing to see here. Nothing to see here. Well, I'm going to show you right now from the Congressional Committee, the Means and Ways, House Ways and Means Committee, that they do have stuff. So, watch this.
Moments ago, the Ways and Means Committee, we voted to release over 700 pages of additional material provided to the committee by 2 IRS whistleblowers, Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler, who came forward at great risk to their careers and reputations to bring to light evidence of corruption and misconduct within our federal government. On June 22nd, the committee voted to release the initial testimony of the 2 IRS whistleblowers that showed wrongdoing and misconduct at both the Department of Justice and the IRS. Their testimony then also shed light on a complex and lucrative enterprise operated by the Biden family to enrich themselves to the tune of at least $20 million, with much of Hunter Biden's share going unreported for taxes. In the months since, no one has offered any evidence that contradicts. Moments ago, the Ways and Means Committee.
That's right. No one's come forward and disputed any of the evidence that they have. They literally have thousands of pages of emails and text messages, and of course um, the IRS agents there that came for the whistleblowers, and they followed the money, followed the trail. Um, Seems to be a little bit more than just one little line in a conversation that was they impeached Trump for. Um, Quite ridiculous. But anyway, so what the Ways and Means Committee did was they subpoenaed Hunter Biden to come forward and jump up in front of their committee the other day. And this was what Hunter Biden did at his press conference. He held one right outside the house where he was supposed to go and testify because he was subpoenaed to show up. So hear what he said.
For 6 years, I have been the target of the unrelenting Trump attack machine, shouting, "Where's Hunter?" Well, here's my answer. I am here. Let me state as clearly as I can. My father was not financially involved in my business, not as a practicing lawyer, not as a board member of Burisma, not in my partnership with a Chinese private businessman, not in my investments at home nor abroad, and certainly not as an artist.
So even from the clip just before that, when they were talking about millions of dollars that they'd found from the IRS, Al Capone, I've said this before in one of my other previous podcasts a while back. Al Capone, actually, that's they got him on. They got him on tax evasion, and they sent him to Alcatraz prison for tax evasion. And it was only like $1 million or something like that they'd found in his books, bookkeeping that he didn't pay tax on, and they put him away for life. And here's Hunter Biden, who was subpoenaed to go and talk to Congress, the Means and Ways Committee, and he did not even show up. Kind of crazy when you think of it, because I'm going to show you a video here right now, and this is the album of Adam Kissinger. Adam goes talks a little bit about somebody that did the same thing, and you might remember this, you might not, but have a listen to this.
Madam Speaker, voting on a criminal contempt resolution is not the position we hoped to be in, but Steve Bannon went out of his way to earn this resolution before us, and now we must approve it. Mr. Bannon's willful disregard for the Select Committee's subpoena demonstrates his utter contempt for the American people's right to know how the attacks on January 6 came about. He has advanced a ludicrous legal argument in support of his decision not to cooperate or comply, a decision that defies the rule of law and rejects the will of the American people.
Defies the rule of law and goes against the American people. Kind of crazy when you think of it. And who's he talking about here at this time? He was talking about a fellow by the name of Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon was a friend of Donald Trump. And if you have never seen him, I'll pop up a picture right here. President Biden says he supports prosecution for those who defy congressional subpoenas. That's Steve Bannon right there. And that's what President Biden said in his own words, and he's on record saying it, that he should be prosecuted, period. Now, here is Nancy Pelosi talking about it as well. And what does she have to say? We'll have a listen. This is in regards to the same exact thing.
Bannon, why is it important that Republicans vote to hold him in contempt?
Well, because they take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution of the United States. The genius of our Constitution and of our founders was the separation of power, checks and balances. If, in fact, you want to negate the ability of one check of another branch of government over another, then you are undermining the Constitution. So this goes beyond Bannon in terms of its importance, and you would think that if they take an oath to protect and defend the Constitution, they would vote for the system of checks and balances.
So, for the system of checks and balances, getting back to Themis, of course, like I said about the goddess of the law, getting back to her, checks and balances would be the Democratic Party doing the same thing that she asked the Republican Party to do. Democratic Party swore an oath to the Constitution of the United States. Therefore, they have to do the same thing to Steve Bannon, to Hunter Biden that they did to Steve Bannon. Now, you might say, well, what did they do to Steve Bannon? Well, Steve Bannon did not answer that subpoena. He did not go talk to the January 6th committee, and they charged him with contempt. And this was after his court hearing right here. Picture of him and his lawyer. And they gave him 4 months in prison. 4 months is what they gave Steve Bannon. And he did the exact same thing that Hunter Biden just did. So, that being said, James Comey and Jim Jordan, they had a little bit of something to say in regards to what Hunter Biden did. Basically the same day, because the reporters, of course, swarmed him in the hallways of Congress, and here's what they said.
This is a normal process in the investigation. This has been a serious, credible, transparent investigation from day one. We've published 4 bank memorandums. We've had countless press conferences. This is an investigation about public corruption at the highest levels. We have accumulated mountains of evidence that's concerning to an overwhelming majority of Americans. We have specific questions in there, and I think we're going to allow you in there to see the piles and piles of documents, of bank statements, of emails, of text messages that we've worked very hard on in this committee over the last 8 or 9 months. We expect to depose the President's son, and then we will be more than happy to have a public hearing with him. With that, I'll turn it over to Chairman Jordan.
Well, I would just echo what the chairman said. You know, we're disappointed that he didn't show up. I mean, he was just across the way at the Capitol. You think he could have come here and set the questions. If you do it in an open format now, you're going to get filibusters, you're going to get speeches, you're going to get all kinds of things. What we want is the facts, and the way you get the facts in every single investigation I've been involved in is you bring people in for an interview behind closed doors where you can get those facts. And then, as the chairman said, we'd love for him to come public. Finally, I would say this. Mr. Biden's counsel and the White House have both argued that the reason he couldn't come for a deposition was because there wasn't a formal vote for an impeachment inquiry. Well, that's going to happen in a few hours. We think it's going to pass. We think the House of Representatives will go on record with the power that solely resides in the House to say we are in an official impeachment inquiry phase of our oversight. And when that happens, we'll see what their excuse is then. They should have been here today, but once we take that vote, we expect him to come in for his interview, for his deposition. And frankly, we'll also, I think, look at contempt proceedings as we move forward. With that, we'll take your question.
Why not just call it bluff?
So they're going to look for contempt proceedings moving forward. And then, of course, Jim Jordan was just talking about the impeachment vote, which actually went through. So they are definitely going to be impeaching Biden. So with that being said, with Jim and Jim, with Hunter not showing up for his subpoena to answer some questions, just to show what kind of a person he is as well, is maybe a lot of people don't realize this, but all the Trump kids, Ivanka, Eric, and Don Jr., they all testified for literally hours upon hours upon hours. I think Don Jr. did about 30 hours all totaled in Congress, and he just went and testified again in New York. But Don Jr. stood up and took it and did his time by answering questions. And here's a little bit something that this was what happened with Congress, because he also testified with Congress as well. So here's just a few little things that happened in the halls.
The president's son back in front of the Senate Intelligence Committee after allegations from former Trump attorney Michael Cohen that Jr. seemed to have discussed that infamous meeting with Russians at Trump Tower with the president, and allegations that Jr. lied to Congress about the Trump Tower Moscow project.
Michael Cohen, who, let's not forget, is serving time right now for lying.
Jr. later emerging from his subpoenaed appearance, claiming his story hadn't changed.
I don't think I changed anything of what I said because there was nothing to change.
So, yeah, he was also talking about Michael Cohen there. Michael Cohen was actually in prison because he actually did lie to Congress. And, of course, with the Moscow, they kept trying to attach Russia with Trump and some hotels in Moscow. This is ridiculous. It all came to pass after 4 years, that after like 2 major investigations with the Mueller and the Durham report, both coming forward after, like I said, years of investigations, and showed nothing to see here. But they hammered it anyway, over and over and over again. But that was Don Jr. Stepping up to the plate, and because he was asked to do it. And here, once again, is Don Jr. This was for the January 6th committee, I believe. Don Jr. testifies for hours before the January 6th committee, and Don Jr. voluntarily met with January 6th committee investigators for hours, and of course he testified, did his thing, and his sister, I believe, did testifying before him. He's become the second former president's son, Donald Trump Jr., adult children, to provide lengthy testimony for the committee. It just shows basically that he stepped up to the plate and answered the questions because of the subpoena that was given out. So since there was a subpoena, like I said, given out, he stepped up and answered. If he didn't answer, what do you think would happen to Don Jr.? Leave some comments. Leave some comments. Just drop some comments. Hit the comment button down below and leave your comments. And while you're watching the video, please like, subscribe, share. It's much appreciated. This is how the algorithm works. Leave some comments right there. Like I said, like and share on all social platforms. Any of the content that you see, share it with your friends, family, and stuff. This is how the algorithm works in YouTube, and this is how YouTube videos move up and down the scale. Just the way it works, just the algorithm. I've done like probably 170 videos now, somewhere in that ballpark, and I do motivational stuff as well. It's out there. It's on my channel. I started doing that before I started doing the political stuff. I still do both, just to kind of keep busy. But yeah, spread my stuff around. It's much appreciated, and that's how the algorithm works. Like I said, with YouTube. So the other day when I covered about truth bombs on one of my podcasts was called Truth Bombs. It was about Vivek Ramaswamy. Now, Vivek Ramaswamy, like I said, some people like this guy, some people hate this guy. And I always ask myself, why do people hate certain individuals, right? And like I said in previous podcasts, people might think I like Trump. I don't like the guy. I don't hate the guy. Same with Biden. Don't like him, don't hate him, got no skin in the game. Just want a fair and equal playing field. That's all I want. But when you see people like this Vivek Ramaswamy dropping truth bombs, and you know it's the truth, and they attack him for it, you know he's close to the mark, because that's what happens, right? As soon as you get close to target, then people start firing arrows at you because you're getting close. And he's on the mark, this guy. He really is. So this is what he said the other night at the last debate. So here's a few things that he had said. In case you missed my last podcast, I'll play it on this one here. And I'll explain a little bit at the end of what he says, because I'm going to show you a few more video clips. These all go together with this clip here. So here we go.
Ron DeSantis, you've been a great governor, but you would have never been one without actually begging Donald Trump for that endorsement.
And you attacked him in your book a year ago.
Same thing with Chris Christie as a lobbyist, begging them for COVID money for his special interests in New Jersey, prepping him for the debates last time around. These people are now Monday morning quarterbacking some decision he made. I think the real enemy is not Donald Trump. It's not even Joe Biden. It is the deep state that at least Donald Trump attempted to take on. And if you want somebody who's going to speak truth to power, then vote for somebody who's going to speak the truth to you. Why am I the only person on the stage, at least, who can say that January 6th now does look like it was an inside job? That the government lied to us for 20 years about Saudi Arabia's involvement in 9/11? That the Great Replacement Theory is not some grand right-wing conspiracy?
Now, he said the Great Replacement Theory. Remember that.
Theory, but a basic statement of the Democratic Party's platform, that the 2020 election was indeed stolen by big tech. that the 2016 election, the one that Trump won for sure, was also one that was stolen from him by the national security establishment that actually put up the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that they knew was false. There's a reason why I'm the only person on the stage who can say these things. That's what it's going to take, not people who were licking his boots one time and now Monday morning quarterbacking him and criticizing him when it's convenient.
Governor Christie.
Interesting little take there by Vivek, and truth bombs getting dropped big time there. Anyway, so the other day, this is what happened at another convention that Vivek was at, and this is what Vivek had to say.
We demand a government that tells us the truth again in this country. That's what we require. We can handle the truth. That's what it means to be a citizen of this country. So I say that on that last debate stage to a bunch of Republicans that are shaking in their boots. These are the things you're not supposed to say in the Republican Party even today. And then you get the mainstream media. You got this character Van Jones on CNN afterwards saying, this is the rise of an American demagogue who's going to live 50 years longer than Trump. This is dangerous. I am shaking. That's what he says. Just shut the fuck up. At a certain point, just shut the fuck up. Van Jones at CNN.
I'm going to tell you why he said this. Why he said this about Van Jones. Because Van Jones said this. And Vivek Ramaswamy actually posted it on his Twitter feed. He says, yesterday Van Jones called me a demagogue for discussing the Great Replacement Theory. Remember what he said at the debate? The Great Replacement Theory. Now that's about immigration, okay? Just in case you weren't up on that. But see how these little things kind of pass you by and you're not too sure on what they mean or what it's all about. So anyway, he says, these are in Van's words. This is what he says. The request from the radical racial justice left. We want the white majority to go from being a majority to being a minority and like it. That's a tough request, and change is hard. Now, you don't believe that he said that? Well, he in fact did say that, and here we go. I just read that, so we're just getting to the part where he's actually going to talk here, so just give me 1 second. Let's fast forward the video a little bit until he actually comes on, and you'll hear it in his own words right here. Here we go.
Basically, the request from the racial justice left is that we want the white majority to go from being a majority to being a minority and like it. That's a tough request. And the reality is that change is hard. Change that you want is hard. Change that is good.
So there you go. That's about the replacement theory. That's what started off with Vivek saying it at the debates, and then that's what made him say what he said, because Van Jones actually said this himself in a Zoom call. And he's calling Vivek a demigod and calling him like a Hitler and all this other stuff. He literally said what Vivek was talking about. See, these little things just don't make any sense to me. So here's Vivek once again. This is the other day. And Vivek, of course, dropping truth. People, for some reason, freak out when they hear the truth. And when you have evidence to prove it, this lady here, listen to what she says. She asked Vivek a question because they're on CNN, Republican presidential town hall. So she asks him a question, and she hardly even lets him answer it. She keeps interrupting him. I think it's totally rude. Journalism is like out the window, and I'm just going to play it for it and let you decide. I'm going to stop it a few times possibly because it's ridiculous.
Well, speaking of those debates, let me ask you about something that you said at the debate last week. You used the phrase inside job to describe what happened on January 6th. The next day, Capitol rioter Alan Hosteler highlighted your comments at his sentencing. He is going to prison for 11 years. Hostetter threatened members of Congress. He brought a hatchet, knives, pepper spray, stun batons, tactical gear to the U.S. Capitol. Are you concerned that a convicted felon like that is now promoting your comments in court?
So here's my concern, Abby, and I want to tell you guys where I'm at. If you had told me, it's close to 3 years ago that January 6, 2021 happened, if you had told me 3 years ago, back when I was a biotech CEO, not steeped in this world, I was just consuming passive media but was focused on my world of developing medicines. If you had told me that January 6th was in any way an inside job, the subject of government entrapment, I would have told you that was crazy talk. Fringe conspiracy theory nonsense. I can tell you now, having gone somewhat deep in this, it's not. I mean, the reality is this. We do have a government, first of all, we have to acknowledge that has lied to us systematically over the last several years about the origin of COVID-19, about the Hunter Biden laptop that we were told was false by 51 CIA experts and otherwise before we now know that it was true. You could go straight down the list, the Trump-Russia disinformation collusion hoax, all of it. Now we come to January 6th.
This is where it gets kind of wild.
The reality is we know that there were federal law enforcement agents in that field. We don't know how many. I think it's a shame. Let me finish this answer.
Well, let me just, I'm going to go ahead and interrupt you here because you're saying that there were federal agents. You're saying that there were federal agents.
This is important to talk about.
You are saying there were federal agents in the crowd on January 6th.
Yep.
There is no evidence that there were federal agents in the crowd on January 6th.
So why, before Congress, when pressed on what the number was, they didn't say there were none. They just couldn't say how many there were.
So you're saying that that you have not seen any evidence that there
were, and so we've seen multiple informants suggesting that there were. We know people were FBI informants who were asking.
Is there any evidence? Let me clarify.
That was very uncomfortable for you.
I'm going to clarify my question.
It's really uncomfortable for her because she doesn't even want him to talk.
People, but we have to do the truth.
I'm going to clarify my question because I want to make sure.
Here we keep saying we have to say the truth. We have to talk the truth here.
That you understand.
I understand the sequence. I told you, I was there 3 years ago. I'm not there now.
Where is the evidence?
Yes.
Where is the evidence that the government had applied an inside job?
But no, I'm not an inside job because I'm not
violence on January 6th.
I'm not going to let you put words in my mouth. I'm going to put my words in my mouth. And I'm going to tell you what I mean by that.
Where is the evidence that the government was involved in?
Entrapment.
I was going to explain entrapment. Entrapment, if you don't know what it is, he's going to explain a little bit if he has the opportunity.
Planning or executing January 6th.
So I'm going to give you hard facts, and if I may, Abby, I know this is going to be a little uncomfortable, but we're going to go through this, and you can push back on it after, and you can push back on that, and let's do this fairly. Why did they suppress footage of now what's been released? 200 hours of footage of shooting rubber bullets into that crowd, shooting tear gas into that crowd. You didn't see that before. You saw what the response was to that. Now you see footage coming out of actually rolling out the red carpet for Capitol Police allowing people in.
Again,
right through the front door.
Vast majority of that footage
should have been released before, Abby.
Mr. Ramaswamy, the vast majority of the footage shows police officers being overrun by violent riders. That's the vast majority of it shows.
So what here's what entrapment.
Let me hear your comments. What do you think about all this of her interrupting? Just drop some comments.
Can't cherry pick.
I'm not cherry picking.
You cannot cherry pick examples.
To the contrary. To the contrary.
You cherry pick examples and say that is what happened.
The government cherry picked 12 hours of footage. When there was 200 hours of footage. Cherry picking was the government, not me. Release the whole thing. And let me just finish one thing too, because this is super important as a topic.
So I
think this is a civil libertarian issue of our time. Gretchen Whitmer's kidnapping. I want to be really clear on this, because it's the same issue in the same FBI, same even part of the FBI. 3 people who were in an alleged plot to kidnap Gretchen Whitmer were acquitted at the end of trial because it was entrapment. That is, government agents put them up to do something they otherwise wouldn't have done. They gave them credit cards with spending limits of up to $5,000, encouraged them to buy munitions, plan something they weren't otherwise willing to plan. So much so, and I want people at home to know this, especially CNN viewers to know this, is that one of the jurors went to those defendants and apologized afterwards, gave him a hug, apologized, seeing what the government had put a poor guy up to who had to go to some Mexican restaurant across the street to get hot water. These people were exploited with credit cards up to $5,000, FBI agents, putting them up to a kidnapping plot that we were told was true but was entrapment. Same thing with the Capitol Police. People letting them in freely. Many of those people then being charged. The government cannot put you up to do something and then charge you for it. That's wrong.
I don't want to have...
She keeps interrupting him to the point of it's kind of nauseating to listen to that nonsense because she keeps interrupting him and doesn't give him the chance to speak and what he's trying to say about January the 6th and entrapment. Now, she keeps saying, oh, there's no evidence. There's no evidence that this even happened or blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm going to show you the very first one that I, in fact, showed several podcasts ago. And this is at the entrance of the Capitol of West Terrace. An officer is holding the door for the people. This is actually what transpired that day. And this is entrapment. This is letting people in and then charging them for it later. It's crazy. I'm just going to turn the music down just a little bit because it's kind of like church music. It's a little weird. But anyway, listen, there's the police officer there. If you're watching this on my YouTube channel, I'll explain to it. If you're listening to it on my on a podcast app, this is Brady Knowlton and his friends. They approach. They just walk right through. The Capitol police officers open up the door for them. No problem at all. There's the officer there. He's got his hand, literally arm on the door, opening it up. He's right behind that door. You can see it through the shadow. Officer's hand's right there. Pushes the door open. Come on in, fellas. There you go. Come on in. There you go. So they all come in. They got cameras up. They're just walking through there. They're not wrecking anything. They're not destroying anything. They're not breaking anything. They're just walking through, walking up the stairs. They're not attacking the police officers. Zero of that. Oh, there's some more people. The cops open up the door. There you go. Walk right in. And they're just walking right past them like no problem at all. Easy peasy. No one's hurting the police officers. No one's doing anything. The protesters are just looking around going, wow, look at this. And walking on in. And in the rotunda, Brady, he walked around peacefully taking videos and photos like a tourist. You can see him there. He's just walking around. They're waving flags. No one's breaking anything, wrecking anything, destroying anything. No, they're just waving flags. They're in the rotunda area. Walking around, taking videos once again. Brady and his friends took photos of each other, thinking they were allowed to be in the Capitol. Probably because the police officers just held the door open for them. That's probably where they're thinking. Brady eventually asked police how he could exit. He left voluntarily, thanking the police officers as he walked out. Yeah. Tapping them. Yay, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. The cop holds the door open. Off they go. On January 6, 2021, Brady Knowlton was entirely peaceful. Didn't do anything. Didn't break anything. Just walked in with his camera, took some pictures with his friends, high-fiving cops on the way out. Thanking them. Hey, see you later. And out he goes. And what did he get for that? What did he get for walking in and taking pictures, saying thanks to the police? Entirely peaceful government has charged Brady with 20 years. He could spend years away from his children because of that. 20. Isn't that something? Now, that lady there just on CNN just argued the fact with Vivek that where's the proof? There's no proof. That's proof right there. There's one. Another one you probably have not seen, but I've showed this before in previous podcasts. And this is a peaceful protest. This is all the protesters. They're all peaceful. They're all lined up. And this one here is timed out. And you'll see down the lower left-hand side or right-hand side, there's a timer, but just behind my picture. Anyway, everything's fairly peaceful. They're standing there until the police do something. They do exactly what Vivek Ramaswamy said they did. Shot tear gas into the crowd. You don't believe me? Well, I'm going to show you the video right here. There's no sound or anything on this, but you'll see smoke coming across the screen from the right to left. And then you'll see people moving forward because you're getting tear gassed. You can't breathe. But then the sound's going to come on here in a minute, and you'll see why. See the smoke coming from right to left on the screen? You'll see why.
Wherever the hell you go, right over there, put it out. Hey, Rich. Put it up the fucking scaffolding. Hey, I'll make sure I don't know. Yeah. Fire it up in the air, Rich. Over there.
So he just shoots it and misfires. And this is to the right of what we just looked at prior to that. It's on the right side. Smoke, the tear gas starts to expand and moves from right to left because of the wind. And you watch what ensues. These are all the police officers coughing because the tear gas is coming back towards them, so they're backing up and getting away from that gas, but it's also in the crowd, so the crowd's moving forward as well, and that's what you see. But it looks like they're storming them or something, but they're really not. They're just getting away from that tear gas. Think about it. Totally peaceful until that occurred. Almost like in Canada, up at the Ottawa Truckers, when they were all peaceful until the jackboots came in and started pushing assaulting Canadian citizens with horses and batons. And, they had assault weapons and stuff. Kind of crazy when you think of it, right? Totally peaceful until something like that is basically initiated to ratchet it up to the next level. So there you go. That explains that in a nutshell. Like I said, listening to Vivek Ramaswamy and that Abby from CNN talking about January 6th, and she wouldn't even let him have the opportunity to explain everything that happened to January 6th and saying there's no evidence. And he's talking about the video that's been released by Michael Johnson. Michael Johnson happens to be the new Speaker of the House now. Michael Johnson he released all that extra information onto the internet and released it to the public, so now everyone can see it. Stuff that was stifled by this January 6th committee that no one else saw. They cherry-picked what they wanted to, and now it's out, and everyone can see it for themselves. These are the things that hide. These little things that are the truth. People can handle the truth. People of Canada can handle the truth. People of America can handle the truth. Just give us the truth, because when all these little lies occur, that's when people... They don't trust other people. They don't trust politicians. They don't trust their government. They don't trust anyone because it's almost like, not when you lose trust from, say, your children or your spouse or your one of your friends. If you lose that, it's very, very difficult to regain that back again. Really, really difficult. But anyway, that's the evidence, and she is wrong. And she was wrong in doing what she did to Vivek Ramaswamy, as far as I'm concerned. But people hate the guy. They don't like him. But he speaks the truth. Everything he said was the truth. You can find it out. You can watch videos that I've posted before on previous podcasts. You can find out information for yourself. I'm just kind of opening it up and letting you kind of decide for yourself what you believe. That's it. Anyway, that's it for today's podcast, everyone. I'm going to sign off. Thanks, everyone that subscribed to my channel. Thanks to everyone that is going to subscribe to my channel. All you do is subscribe to my channel, hit the little bell, ding, ding, ding. Every time I post a new video, it goes right to you've been notified. It goes to your YouTube account or your email account. Tells you exactly that I've posted a new video. Much appreciated. All my videos also go to Rumble, rumble.com. You can find me there. And I'm also on Twitter. My Twitter feed is the same, Surge Effect, and you'll find my Twitter feed there. And please like, subscribe, and share my videos. It's much appreciated. And have yourself a great day. Until next time, cheers.
This episode sponsored by He Shirts, She Shirts. Go to www.heshirtsseshirts.ca. Just type in the letters TSA, the Surge Effect. When you check out, type in TSA for your coupon and receive 10% off your next purchase. Thanks for listening to today's podcast, everybody.